Good night and welcome to Alternate Views. My name is Kemar Stuart. I am your host this afternoon, Thursday, the 26th of September 2024, 7 minutes past 7 p.m. Welcome to Alternate Views. Just let me know if you can hear me loud and clear. And as soon as you give me that signal, we are on the way to having yet another exciting and mind-boggling show here at Alternate Views. We have two early patron supporters, Mystic Angel. Welcome to the show. Rhonda Paris. Rhonda is saying a blessed and wonderful night, everyone, despite the abundance of lightning and thunder in St. John. So thank you very much for the update, Rhonda. We wish you all the best and hope that you are kept safe through the night. So we have some early patron supporters. Mystic Angel, right? Yes, the audio should be fine now. So as I was saying, I have my two loyal co-hosts ready and ready to go, Ramon and Melissa. So let me get Ramon and Melissa in very early. Let us get the discussion on the way. So good night, lady and gentleman, and welcome to Alternate Views.
Hi, good night.
Oh,
Good night to the viewers.
yes, yes. We're not hearing Ramon. Ramon, could you unmute, please? You are muted.
You guys can hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yes.
Okay, beautiful. Okay. Good night to viewers. And Melissa, good night, Kimar.
Hi, good night.
Yes. Good night. Good night. Thank you for being on Alternate Views. I hope you guys had a very good week so far. We are coming in to the almost the end of the week. Thursday, then it's Friday, then it's the Sabbath day. So we wanna welcome you guys to the program. So we are getting some comments coming in earlier. We have Sheepdog. Sheepdog was one of our Sheepdog was one of our Patriot supporters from our show that we did in Ireland. Sheepdog asked some very thought-provoking questions. So we want to welcome him back. Victor Calendar, good night to you. Good night to Marcia. Marcia is saying good night, Kimara, Melissa, Ramona, alternate viewers.
Hi, good night, Marcia.
Good night, Marcia. Always a pleasure.
Yes. So we have Peter King, who's saying good afternoon, Kimara and crew. And good afternoon, Barbados. Tim Ward from Canada is saying good night, Canada. Good night from Canada. Audio good. And Square 4. Lemuel Toe is saying good night. We are seeing and hearing the lightning and thunder down here in St. James too. Today it was hot. And Square 4 is saying good night to the panelists. Mr. Angel from St. John as well as saying thunder like crazy, Kimura. I've never seen it before so bad. Thank you guys for the updates and we hope that you are safe uh, throughout the night. No, we have a packed panel for you guys tonight. This is probably our biggest show to date. And we have a very special show tonight because we have Mr. Richard Seeley, who's already in the back ready to come on. Um, So we are glad to have the former Minister of Tourism of Barbados on Alternate Views uh, tonight. So we're going to soon get Richard in. But last week we had a very good show, and on Alternate Views we had Nigel Franklin, who shared his experiences from Ethiopia, and then he chimed into the conversation. And both Melissa and Ramon, they said they enjoyed the conversation. So we're gonna have Nigel back again tonight. Well, to know actually, because we're gonna bring him in right now and welcome Nigel back to the show. We got a high rating from Nigel from the alternate viewers, and we want to welcome Nigel back onto the show. Good night, Nigel Franklin.
All right, good night, everyone. Melissa, Ramon, Mr. Stewart. Good night,
Good night.
alternate viewers.
Good night.
Hi,
Good
good
night.
night, Nigel. Nice to see you
Nice,
again.
Glad
nice,
to glad
nice. You
to
can
be
hear me,
back.
right? You can hear me?
Hear you low and
Beautiful.
clear.
Yeah, having some challenges before.
Okay.
Yes. Well, now that everybody's up and running, um, thank you guys for coming on to Alternate Views. Very happy to have you, young, brilliant people, um, exposing yourselves really and truly to John Public, to hear your alternate views, and to have them heard. No, oh shoot, we lost Ramon. We lost Ramon. Try to have to try to get him back in. But nevertheless, we're going to continue on. Before we welcome Richard, though, we usually start the show uh with a quote from Alternate Views, the book. Ramon is black now, so he should be back in.
Guys, can hear me?
Yeah,
You
loud
can
and
hear
clear.
me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, that was an error on my end, Ramon. My apologies
okay,
for
no
that.
problem, bro. No problem.
Yes,
That's cool.
but we are about to get started on the program tonight. As was announced, we have the former Minister of Tourism, Mr. City, in the background, ready and ready to go. But before we bring him in, we usually start the program with a quote, Ramon, and we take this quote from Alternate Views, the book. Um, so I want to collect that specific chapter that we're going to read, given tonight's discussion. Right. So a brief introduction. As you guys know, tourism is the breadbasket of Barbados, the industry that feeds us, our most lucrative industry, and we sought to bring on an expert, a man who has been in the field, a man who has directed the field, Mr. City, to hear his thoughts on if Barbados is an economy right now standing on one leg, given the performance of our tourism product, and that includes performance of the industry, the viability of the industry, what new growth areas could we delve into as a country. We are under an IMF program as usual, and we discuss majority of our topics uh, under the umbrella of Barbados being in one of the most in-depth and extensive IMF uh, programs. So, without further delay, I wanted to start this quote, and I said that Barbados, as an island developing state, small island developing state, has benefited significantly in terms of foreign direct investment post independence. In 1966, up until the global financial crisis of 2008, where the world experienced significant drawbacks in private capital coming into Barbados. In more recent years, Barbados has been struggling to meet foreign direct investment coming in as emerging global economies compete. And these are economies with higher potential for economic growth, higher potential for economic returns, uh, much better offerings in terms of tourism tourism offerings at a much cheaper rate as well, and a much better level of access coming into the country. So Barbados being currently under the Barbados Economic and Recovery and Transformation Program, sponsored by the IMF to undertake structural adjustment in the political economy. We have a need to basically diversify, as it is evident that Barbados cannot sustain the level of foreign reserves when we start to resume international payments from the debt that we have borrowed. And with tourism being our main money earner, who best than to invite Mr. Richard City on the program to give us his thoughts on tourism in Barbados? So let's get him in right now, Mr. Richard City. He should be in on the program, hearing us. Can you hear us, Richard?
Indeed. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Good
Yes, we
evening.
can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you.
Well,
Loud and clear.
now that I'm sure you're hearing me, let me greet you, Kemar,
Yes,
and
good evening.
indeed your co-host Melissa and Ramon, and I understand Nigel is a special guest, and of course through you to your what you call them alternate viewers. I greet every single one of them as well. Great to be here.
Well, thank you very much, Mrs. City, for coming on. Um, Everybody knows who Richard City is. You've gone on record for having the best, or being the best, or if not the best, one of the best tourism ministers Barbados has ever seen on record. And tonight, given our introduction, uh, we're going to discuss Barbados. Is it an economy limping on one leg, given the outlook of our tourism uh, product at the moment? Right? So, most recently, uh, we heard the current Minister of Tourism in Barbados saying that Barbados has some of the best visitor arrivals for the first half of the year ever in the history of Barbados, but we're still not seeing the earnings which correlates to statements like that. So could you give us, as an introduction, what are your initial thoughts?
Well, I must confess that I was a little surprised to hear that. Um, Certainly, there's been no evidence on the ground to suggest it. And I can only go based on what I pick up and what I hear from people in and around the sector. Now, I know that he would be very quick to point out the cricket event, but I was on a call-in program, what do you call it, Sunday Brass Tacks, with another former minister, actually my predecessor, who happened to have been the chairman of the organizing committee for the cricket. And when quizzed about the numbers that really didn't show any, quantum leap, he said basically there wasn't enough airlift, that the people who came in for cricket took the seats that other people would have taken, which to my mind was a confession that the entire event from a tourism perspective was a massive failure. The whole point of having an event like that, an extraordinary event, is that you should see an extraordinary boost. This is what the former Minister of Tourism, who was the chairman of the World Cup committee, was saying only about 3 Sundays ago when I was on that program. I mean, again, he said it publicly, so I'm not, bringing any tales out of school. So lo and behold, now we're going to hear, a month later, that that the first 6 months of the year were the best 6 months Barbados has ever seen. I don't know where these people are, and certainly the hired car companies haven't seen them. The attractions haven't seen them. In fact, they have been saying they have had their worst summer in a while. As a matter of fact, they say that this summer was worse than last summer, which was horrible. So questions just come to mind. Now, it is true that visitor arrivals have been an issue in the past. You may remember 2 years ago, Kemar, or not even 2 years ago, they adjusted the arrivals because they were undercounting, specifically by 8,000 passengers a month. Now, that is outrageous in the context of Barbados. Uh, what would happen from time to time is that country of origin, sometimes because of how people fill in the immigration forms, you might have a 0.5%, you'll be out by country of origin. But you're talking, if it's 30,000 people or 60,000 people, let's say in a month, that's like 60 people. Okay, you're not gonna out by no 8,000, and in this case, numbers that they're undercounted. I'm wondering now if maybe they haven't done the opposite this time around and started overcounting, because you're gonna tell me you undercounted by 8,000 passengers. Just to give it some perspective, that's 125 ATR aircraft, the aircraft that LIAC used to operate, that CAL now operates. 125 plane loads undercounted. In the case of the 777 that British Airways use, 35 full of passengers undercounted. Doesn't make any sense. Those numbers come through the immigration department, and they're vetted by the statistical service, the agency responsible overall for it. And of course, they're shared, between the Ministry of Tourism, Central Bank of Barbados, and other places. And you're going to tell me a year after the fact you undercounted by 8,000 passengers a month. Now, that's just gross incompetence, or you're cooking the books. And now, lo and behold, you're coming back now this year saying that you had more people in the first 6 months than ever before, and nobody knows where these people are or were. Certainly, the hoteliers can't tell you. Two of our main hotel plants have laid off people. And I'm going to tell you, I hear the BHTA, because, they used to be an advocacy group when I was minister, but now they don't really say anything at all since the government has changed. I wonder why. But the BHTA said it's normal. It may be normal for some, but Sandals, since it opened its doors in 2015, has never had to lay off during the off season because of their structure. Their off season for Sandals is occupancy in 70s. During the high season, their occupancy is in the 90s, because it's a massive marketing machine, and that's just how they function. And that's why it was such a good thing to have them here. Sam Lord's a brand new hotel plant, should not have to be laying off people when you've opened. Brand new hotels, usually that's a major attraction. So in that context, again, I say the numbers don't make any sense. Now, I like to be fair in my analysis. I will only say that perhaps the Air Sea transfer, because of the legislation that we changed to try to encourage the ships to stay longer, that has been working. So it's a possibility that maybe some of these people who are really in transit and should not be counted are being counted. And perhaps that might explain some of what's taking place. But it's still, again, I would have to hear where these people are. I understand we have quite a few Airbnbs, etc., but not to that extent that we would see this. So my initial reaction is that perhaps it's another oversight, another mistake that they flagged again last year, or somebody just cooking the book so they can look good. And there's some larger issues as well that go beyond numbers. And I know that we will get into that as well as we continue this discussion tonight.
Yes, well, thank you, Richard, for your very introduction, really. We started out speaking about visitor arrivals into Barbados. But we have a traveler on the program who is Nigel, and Nigel is one who uh, did tourism. He would have left Barbados, I mean, outward, and anytime he's coming back into Barbados, usually he is leaving. Um, so I wanna get Nigel to give you, Richard, a bit of perspective of his, how he lived his life as a tourist, and then we will follow on from the panel, and then you can bring it all together. So over to
Sure.
Nigel.
Okay. As Kemar said, living abroad in the US, Brooklyn to be specific. When I'm coming home, is typically to just visit family, um, business of that sort. What I would see as a returning national, um, there are some concerns that we have that I have personally. I know the custom system is very the structure of that is up for question in how they determine who they pull over, what they choose to um, get money on. I was once told boldly, well, if you can't pay what it is I asked you to pay, then I will ask you for a receipt for every single thing in here, and then we will see who talking. I don't think that is how a national anyone should be treated coming back home. But that is what it is, regardless. I've been to other spaces and places in this world, such as Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, where as soon as you come off the plane and you come through customs, you're greeted and welcomed with a shot of tequila. Their tourism market is more geared towards, I guess, fun, enjoyment, relaxation. I'm not sure what that would possibly look like in Barbados, a small island, where most people travel for that relaxation, that party life, if we're going to speak about Propova. Um, but most places I travel to, the 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 experience is not that of something that you have to wonder if what can happen now. What am I going to experience? Is this going to be good? Am I going to be able to walk through nice, or am I going to be pulled over and accosted based on what it is that I am bringing in for family, etc., etc.
Yeah. Thank you, Nigel. If you're finished, I now pass on to Melissa. As Ramon is more senior, he will bring up the anchor leg. So over to you, Melissa.
Okay. Good.
All right. I heard Richard mention the World Cup and the numbers, and I was seeing that the only increase in numbers during the month of June was an increase of 12,646 visitors. So, in your opinion, as the Minister of Tourism in the past, would you say that that number is significant, or is that number a small increase?
Given given what are the contexts of, as I said, a new hotel plant, a ton of airlift out of the US that was negotiated. I mean, United, Delta, in addition to American Airlines Frontier. I would say that was not necessarily anything unexpected. It was interesting when Anthony Wood, pointed out to knowledge and through his writing, his research and writing, that really and truly we haven't moved anywhere to suggest that this event has brought in these great numbers. He as I said, he was able to say that because even with the airlift out of the US, increased airlift, that the difficulty people had in getting flights, and this is what they said, was that regular people couldn't get here. And that would suggest to me that those numbers that you speak of should have been a lot higher, given that it was, a one-off World Cup event. Let me also say, and I don't want to, get ahead of what we may be discussing. That the World Cup was, well, I should say a two-off, because we did host the 2020 World Cup previously in 2010. And of course, we had the 50 over World Cup in 2007. So it's not to say we've never done this before. And each of those two occasions, Barbados had the final game as well. So, but we ought to focus on events that are annual, events that, event-based tourism is important for Barbados, and particularly around, our major cultural festival, the food festival, or sporting events, and so on, that occur regularly. So I don't want us to necessarily focus only on the World Cup, which is an extraordinary event that we may, if we're lucky, we might get one of them every 10 years. We were fortunate, and I suppose we've had three now over the space of, well, this is about 17 years. We've had three of them. So yeah, but that is what I would say in direct response to that. I will hold at this stage, because we could discuss the customs situation, Nigel, ad nauseum, that they are like an independent republic unto themselves. But
Yeah, but
I
not
can
yet.
just say
Not
this.
yet. Not,
The name
like
of this thing is
after
alternate
Ramon.
views. I'll give you some views shortly, and we can talk about beverages as well in the arrivals hall, whether maybe bottled water or rum or whatever. But I agree that we need to focus on that, and we can discuss that whole experience, because
Yeah.
but
Like
Kemar, don't let me get
after
ahead.
Ramon contributes.
Yeah,
Like after
exactly.
Ramon contributes, then we can have that. So over to Ramon.
Yes, I totally agree. In terms of, there should have been a more hive of activity. No, I took it upon myself. I actually drove down, um, firstly, whole town, firstly. And for some reason, I did not feel a sense that there was a big activity going on. And that's just a short distance, Old Town and Kensington, South Coast as well. So I don't know if Barbados is parted into three, but there wasn't that high of activity. It needed some more buzz. There wasn't any buzz at all, at all. I could have even probably creeped through there, and no one would actually stand up on me, So I didn't feel a sense of that level of activity. And you also had the vendors; they were complaining
Oh, yes.
on the venue, in the venue, So um, I needed more integration, you know, needed more integration there, and I didn't feel that at all.
Well,
Thank you.
and
Sorry, go ahead,
and that's
Richard. Go
the
ahead.
Ramon has that's the ultimate litmus test of this thing. I mean, tourism, in very crude terms, is money earned outside of the jurisdiction being spent in the jurisdiction. That's, in crude terms, what tourism is. People earn outside, and they come in and they spend. And if that spend is only being concentrated in certain areas, then you have a
Richard is
problem.
sticking a bit. Or
I'm sticking. What am I doing wrong here?
good no, good no, good no.
Good now. I was just discussing the fact that the spend. So when you hear your vendors and you know everyone, the guys on the beach and the ladies braiding hair and so on, it has to be about everyone. It can't only be about the hoteliers and the restaurateurs. everybody got to get a piece of the action. And in that regard, Nigel forms a very important segment of tourism that we don't talk about. You look at these stats that you get every month, you will see VFR, visiting friends and relatives, and these people are extremely important. Remember, they're working for the same foreign currency, whether in the UK, Canada, or the US. There's no difference between the money that your diaspora comes and spends and your traditional tourists. And that is why you need to facilitate them. We had the Barbados Family and Friends program, and we tried to encourage a lot of that kind of thing. And in fairness to this government, the we gathering or whatever. I mean, you got to do these things because your diaspora is very important. They're loyal. I mean, let's face it. Even if a hurricane was to hit Barbados, they would still want to come home. I am so sure you can get traditional tourists coming if you're hurricane ravaged. And of course, the spend tends to be in the communities. Even if they're going to book a hotel room, they're going to still bring home a suitcase or a barrel or an envelope for their relatives and so on. So you have to encourage it and not make their life difficult. I look forward to the day when the whole airport experience can be a lot more warm and welcoming. I do not accept that you need to compromise security in that regard. There's lots of technology available. I had liked the idea of taking customs under the Revenue Authority. Of course, they were bitterly opposed to that. Um, and when we formed the Revenue Authority, the idea was customs is really an agency of revenue collection. Okay, they collect excise on exports, they collect duty on imports. That's their main function. Um, and border security is, not their principal function. But of course, they like that. They like a customs area. They control anything. Of course, they don't want the cameras in there. I know why. They will have to tell you why. But the point is, if we can modernize that element and have proper border security using all the technology and so on, when you walk through the Miami airport, you don't know that they have looked at you from every angle. They even got a picture of you without your clothes on. They know what's in your pockets, everything. And you walking outside. Obviously, the overwhelming majority of the people are, law abiding. But trust me, if somebody had something that they shouldn't have on them, some very well dressed men would come up to them and say, "Excuse me, sir, could you step this way?" And that I think we can get to that stage. Um, you know, the immigration officers in the Bahamas, when they're stamping the passport, they look to see if you're having a birthday, and they tell you happy birthday during your time here. You know, um, we did some work in that department, but we constantly hear about the experience at Granley Adams not being as warm and welcoming as it should be, particularly for members of the diaspora, and that has to change. We've been talking about that for too long, and it needs some work. But there is, as I said, I believe there's some structural work needs to be done with the customs department in that regard. And I know it ain't gonna go down well with them. It didn't go down well when we talking about the Revenue Authority business, and I don't know what what's possible going forward. But this is the name of this show is Alternate Views, right? So we are free
Yes, yes,
to express these things, to
yes,
put them out there,
yes.
and even if the dry bones are there, and we can get the flesh on it, and four very wonderful young minds here, you may be able to come up with something that is a little little different, but we gotta work on these things.
Mm. Fair enough. No, you mentioned about the diaspora, and very recently I read the estimates of revenue and expenditure, and under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, there's something called a diaspora unit set up
Yeah.
to do diaspora affairs. However, I have not heard much about it publicly, but it has been provided for financially. Now, there were some events like uh the return to Ghana 2020 that was planned.
Mhm.
Um, there were some other events aimed at engaging the diaspora, and I'm not talking about just setting up a chauffeur truck in New York and giving away free rotis, you know, but I'm talking about a real supposedly unit set up to do those type of events. No, I've not seen any production from it, or I have not heard much about it. Foreign minister, tourism minister, nobody really. So we just see it as an item, but no real action. The second thing, um, the airport. I'm glad that you touched on the airport. Um, because right now the Grand Liados International Airport is in limbo, right? And I heard you speaking before, Mr. City, about upgrades to the Grand Liados International Airport. When I came through London Heathrow, I didn't have to touch the tarmac at all. You know, I came through an air bridge, so sun, snow, wind, whatever I could have, you know, did what I had to do. No, there were some minor delays and stuff, but that's not the bigger conversation here. The bigger conversation here is about the Grand Yados International Airport and the experience that you have coming in to Barbados compared to other international ports around the world. And the fact that the airport is also set to be leased out on a 30-year lease to the United Arab Emirates and to a company in Chile. And we have not heard much about that airport lease, which is supposed to be a public-private partnership. No, they say that the lease is worth $300 million over 30 years. That is $10 million a year. And the garbage and sewage tax means $10 million a year. So I am confused as to this arrangement with the airport and a future vision for a national airport of our country. So could you give us any alternate views on the diaspora unit and the airport?
Okay, the diaspora unit, I believe that was upgraded. I suspect by us. You had they used to have what they call a returning nationals unit. People moving back to Barbados who were entitled to bring in, a vehicle and their furniture and so on, free of duty and with certain limitations. I suspect it had to be one vehicle and that sort of thing. Um, but the whole idea of the diaspora unit was to broaden it to deal beyond just facilitation, but the question of skills and philanthropy, and to, yes, encourage more tourism and reunions and that sort of thing. But I like you, I really haven't heard much from the government really on anything strategic on this issue. It is true, yes, as I said, there's the regathering thing planned next year, and I suppose details would come forward. But as usual, we hear a lot about the jollificating and the frolicking, and we can have a concert here and a fete there and so on. But I think that we could embrace our diaspora in a more meaningful way, and they should be part of the whole national developmental process. I mean, the technology is there, and they want to be a part of it. Some of the most patriotic Bajans you can meet don't even live on the island itself, and that is a tremendous resource that we can draw upon. And like you again, I would maybe I know what your day job is, the gentleman that you work for. Perhaps you could compose a parliamentary question and let him pose it to the minister responsible for foreign affairs, and you know but give us some information. What are the initiatives? What's the strategic vision for this thing? Because I find what lacks a lot in this government is they don't seem to think things out properly. And that's one of the reasons why the implementation element is always they always balls it up, because nobody thinks these things out up front, and then your implementation is a mess. Deadlines can't be met, and you got to push back start dates, and you got to be revising numbers. You just let me plant 1,000,000 trees. Nobody didn't stop. It didn't dawn on anybody to figure out that Barbados is only 166 square miles. Now, where are you going to find room to plant 1,000,000 trees on top of people's heads? I mean, you know, we can send 1,000 sheep to Guyana. Nobody didn't stop to think that most of the sheep farmers in Barbados are subsistence. You don't have, we in New Zealand, we don't got large commercial sheep farms or with any of the other ungulates, no cattle, etc. Think these things out and come up with realistic numbers and that sort of thing. Um, and and in that regard, I can move right into what you discussed, the airport concession arrangement. I mean, it has worked well globally. It has worked well in the region. I think at the Commonwealth of the Bahamas had the worst airport in the Caribbean at one point, and now they probably have the best airport in the Caribbean because of a concession arrangement. But as is again, the devil is in the detail. I had liked the idea of the International Financial Corporation, which is the World Bank's private sector arm. They were consulting and guiding the Barbados government through this process. And having paid them millions of dollars in fees, they decided, nope, they're going to abandon that. And they've gone this MOU with this Emirati sheikh and a company out of not Peru. Is it Peru? Out of South America. Where are they from again, Kemar? Chile, sorry, Chile. Right. Okay, a little further south, yeah. A Chilean company and this, horse race owner, Prince, star boy, playboy, Emirati guy. I will wait. I'm not. They promised details, and I know you have pushed back at them, and I don't know if it's because of you, but I ain't hearing nothing yet. But these arrangements can work. But what I would say is, we're waiting. Just standing up outside like one of the virgins in the Bible with oil in our lantern. I hope we're not one of the 5 foolish ones. But the point is, what really is going on? Just standing up, waiting for a potential husband to turn up. I mean, give us the details. And I think that and in the meantime, of course, the airport itself they need to get some things done. The photovoltaic farm that to save those many millions of dollars being spent to the Barbados Light and Power Company. The regional lounge is atrocious, and that has to be upgraded. Facilities, I mean, there's still too much of that, the roof leaking and so on. And you're hearing, we're waiting for the concession, and of course the arithmetic doesn't look right either. I mean, you hear $300 million, but then it's over a 30-year period. I mean, so this is an airport facility, so it may sound nice when you think of that number, but it needs to be fixed. And yes, as your one of your alternate viewers is pointing out, this the AC lounge. I mean, the air conditioning in the departure lounge and so on. All of these things we're being told have been put in holding pattern, no pun intended, waiting for this concessionaire to fly in here from wherever and fix all these problems. I think we need some more details. And the only concern, I would have preferred if we had stuck with the IFC arrangement, but we tossed it out for whatever reason. and I guess we have to see now what is what is held this joint venture partnership, what they plan to do, um, and take it
So
from
you,
there.
so your recommendation would be though to follow through on the arrangement, preferably with the IFC, where you have more structure, more vigilance, um, and invest some money in upgrading the airport to an international standard, obviously. Um, but how about because we had one of the alternative viewers on here, from Ireland, who was asking a question and making a claim rather. He says that Barbados is basically sitting on a golden ticket, as it he says politically and geographically Barbados is sitting on a golden ticket as a nation. He, meaning us, just don't realize yet. And then he went on to give us a little bit of our Irish connection. He says we also speak with an Irish link, unbeknownst to, I don't know that word, but we have a golden ticket. Figure it out. So I don't know if we are psychologists or, mind readers or anything, but it is something to figure out. I believe, but I want to hear your solution to
I
the.
I don't have a problem with a concession arrangement at the airport, but I don't believe that we should be left in the dark so long. As I said, I don't know what details this sheet has. Again, he's not known for airports. He's known for buying and selling race horses all around the world. And there's nothing wrong with that, I guess, if you're avid turf fight. But this is an airport. Now, granted, he's gone to Chile and he's got some people who are into the transportation sector involved. I understand they're more into cargo than passenger, or this company out of Chile. But
Yeah.
again, the devil is in the detail. um, what I said I would have been more comfortable with is what the IFC was doing, which was guiding the government through the whole process and making firm recommendations in terms of a short list of people who were bidding, but they tossed all of that out and went this route. There were rumors that we were going to go the route of some arrangement with a Chinese group. Um, that turned out not to be the case, and it turned out to be this MOU, which is really just a memorandum of understanding, as it says. So we have to see the details. Now, we also have to look for ways and means that the seaport can also embrace private sector involvement and private sector investment. And by doing that, you can then have the access and we can start to promote ourselves as a logistics destination for transshipment and the like. And perhaps that's one of the golden, your Irish friend, one of the things he's talking about, because we have seen what Panama has been able to do as a logistics hub. We have seen what Hong Kong has been able to do in Singapore. And perhaps that's one of the natural extensions in terms of moving away from the over reliance on tourism that you spoke about. And that is by developing our ports of entry in such a way that we can become a logistics hub for import, export, transshipment, and the such like. That's one of the things I believe he was talking about. The other thing he's probably speaking about is the relationship that exists between the Republic of Ireland and Barbados is strong. The investment in Sandy Lane Hotel, the investment in telecommunications, Digicel, and so on. So we do have natural connections there that we could perhaps explore and get even more investment. And I think he's also touching on some historical links and the like. So yes, I share his view that we do have a lot going for us as a nation. Our the brand Barbados is still very strong, and the brand elements and are very attractive within the region and beyond, and could redound to our benefit. Now, They're being tested in a very serious way. And not only the economic challenges that Kemar you highlight so eloquently from time to time, but from a social perspective, I mean, we are reaching the point now where a lot of people don't even recognize Barbados anymore, and we gotta we gotta nip these things in the bud before they gallop completely out of control, and that is not going to be easy, um, and probably not popular either. But these are the things you got to do. I mean, you got to return values and discipline. People have to be more accountable for their actions, and develop a greater sense of personal responsibility at the individual level and at the household level. You know, things are going a little awry in Barbados, and we got to pull that back. Um, but I think I veered off topic there a little bit.
Yeah, well, still tax, it was so very thought provoking, very informative, some real alternative views, I must say. So I'm gonna let the co-hosts have their say. Um, we made Nigel first last night, so Ramon, you go first. This time, then we're gonna get Melissa down to Nigel.
Yes, a ferry system was. No, you mentioned seaport. A ferry system was mentioned, I think, early up this year. Um, I haven't seen anything in terms of development, in terms of it being implemented. There's you guys have any information on it further?
Me personally, no, I have no information at all on it. But I will tell you bluntly that based on our geography, I think it is going to be extremely difficult for that to be viable. Um, I and also realistic, being realistic. A ferry can help us with cargo. It can help us with a certain segment of you know intra-regional travel. Um, the church groups, community groups, sporting groups, youth organizations, etc. Ferries cannot replace airlinks, not in 2024. Let's get real, okay? We can't talk about a services-based economy. We can't talk about building out potentially being a hub for professional services and logistics, an international business sector, a modern tourism sector, and you expect the basis of getting around the Caribbean to be on a ferry. You're going to still need to deal with this issue of movement within the region on aircraft. You have to do. We gotta bite the bullet and deal with something to replace what we lost with Leah. Um, and and that is reality. Yeah, I take the point there being made about the tremendous maintenance costs of a ferry. I mean, the Trinidadians with all of their oil money, that ferry system that runs between Port of Spain and San Fernando and Tobago loses tons of money, tons. I mean, we don't. I don't think we don't have that kind. We even got the other room they have, or the fiscal space, whatever you want to say. But the point is that no, it will work for certain. Well, I remember the NV Windward, was fairly popular at one point, but you're not going to replace the need for a regional airlift, moving people around the region. I mean, I think people have come to realize just how important it was for Barbados, not only from a tourism perspective, but service providers like myself and in engineering, but certainly in other areas, law, accounting, traders, distributors that do a lot of work in the islands and getting around. It's impossible now to do a day trip to any of our close neighbors. You have to overnight. Sometimes you gotta You got to transit through faraway places. If you're going to the Northern Caribbean, you got to go through Miami sometimes. It's just horrendous. And that the solution is not a ferry system. A ferry system could give you incremental business. And, I could see excursions and that type of thing. Perhaps, and of course, moving cargo, that could help there. But not to replace what we lost with Liat, for example. No, I don't see it that way. But I'm
I
not
was,
pouring cold water on the idea entirely. But
I
just
was,
it has
I was
its.
actually. Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I'm concluded. You go ahead.
Okay, no problem. It was actually supposed to complement the
Right.
air system.
No,
Yeah.
that's
Not
a good way
obviously
to
not
put it.
not a solution. Definitely
Yeah.
not. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely not. And then secondly, we made mention of the airport. Now the red caps. I had that experience the other day. The red caps now they're moving like the conductors in the van stand. Um, I parked and a red cap just came, took up the bikes and uh, put on his hand and asked for money. Just like that, I didn't ask for his services, anything like that. And then there was another red cap that would say, no, no, not he. Don't let he take out your bike. So, it is a hustle. I don't know if there's signs of the times, but that is something that I experienced in the airport. And I don't think that's a good sign, and it's not a good way to show the visitors hospitality. Right? So yeah.
No, I agree with you. I haven't had that experience here, but I had it in the Dominican Republic, and it was terrifying because they raced off with your bags, and of course I don't speak no big set of Spanish, a little bit, and I had to be running behind a complete stranger who don't speak English, who's carrying off my bags, and that's partly part of the culture in that airport there in Punta Cana. But I will hope that what you just described is a one-off, and if there's a repeat offender in that regard, knowing the people responsible for the red caps, I'm sure they would be disciplined. That's uncalled for. You're supposed to offer the service. And as you know, there's been some discussion on whether or not we should even have them. But I think you give people the option. Some people may want to, you get a little trolley and so on in the international airports and the airports overseas. We may have to look at that, but that
Yeah. We
okay,
have a
okay.
we
I
have a
was just
comment.
reading what Sheepdog said. I not getting into that.
Yeah.
I don't get into that one at all. Okay.
Yeah, but it's a very interesting perspective. Um, we don't want very off topic, but Barbados itself now had we just parted ways with England, gone to Republic. We had Brexit, where Britain exited from the EU. Uh, but as part of the United Kingdom, Richard, if we could recall, it is England, Scotland, and Wales that is part of the United Kingdom, right?
You forgot Northern Ireland.
And Northern Ireland,
Yeah.
right? No, when the United Kingdom left Europe, I'm assuming all of these countries left Europe the same time,
That's
right?
right.
And I got in a bit of discussion when I was in Ireland about the northern side and the side that I was on.
Yeah.
And
You were in the Republic of Ireland,
yes,
which
yes.
which is still a member of the EU.
Oh, but see, I didn't understand that
Yeah.
geographical.
Which
Uh,
is which creates one of the major issues because it's an island, and it's about 8 or 9 of the counties in the north, which is Northern Ireland, are still part of the United Kingdom. But the Republic of Ireland, which is in the south, the majority of the island is actually and they're not just in the EU. They're big believers in the EU. So it has been one of the bones of contention in terms of even moving from the north to the south. Things had become very liberal over the years, but now you're literally, leaving the EU to come into the UK. So that has been uh, one of the bones of contention in the whole Brexit business.
Hey, okay, well, let me. This discussion will get, as I think so.
I can see Sheepdog has some very strong views on this matter, and but as I say, I dare not get into it. I have learned, perhaps the hard way, that that you should let other countries make their decisions, and you maintain relations with those countries. I can't get into this business of what the Republic of Ireland should or should not do as far as the EU is concerned. Um,
Yes. All
I
right.
mean,
So
there's a
thank
huge debate going on in Britain right now whether or not Brexit has benefited Britain.
you.
But yeah, that's one of those things.
Yes, thank you for that. Thank you very much, Sheepdog, for the questions. We still have our Irish audience tuning. Sheepdog said, he will follow with interest as a lad from Ireland, then that his country was raped by the EU and that Barbados and Europe is seen as a lovely place from a tourist point of view, and to him, that is a key economic way to go. With that being said, though, I'm going to pass off now to Melissa to hear her alternate views on uh, many of the points that were contributed by both Ramon and you, Richard. Yeah.
Okay, well, my experiences over the years coming through the airport, like Ramon, the Red Cap guys, um, you meet some that are pleasant, you meet some that are a bit rude. Um, I believe that the quality of customer service, not only at the airport, but in all areas in Barbados, need to be much better, especially when dealing with tourists. Um, to touch a bit on the Crop Over Festival that is supposed to be one of our major attractions for tourists in the summer. I've seen that between 2015 and 2018, while Richard Seeley was the minister, that we had arrivals up to like 56,000 visitors. But over the last 3 years, we struggle to even reach 49,000. How much of an impact does a diminishing crop over festival will have on our tourism industry?
Putting it in a question, how much of an
Hmm.
impact is
Yeah,
it diminishing?
and
Yes.
and how significant is the high cost of living in Barbados affecting arrivals?
The high costs of living.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me start with crop over. And it is interesting. Crop over just celebrated its 50th. Is that right? Its 50th anniversary? Yes.
Yeah.
Crop over was started by the then Barbados Board of Tourism. There was no NCF 50 years ago. The crop over was put on by the Board of Tourism to basically get summer traffic up. Back then, tourism was even more seasonal than it is now. Hotels would literally close down after winter and then reopen for the following season. But crop over was designed to try to get some summer traffic. So your focus on numbers is entirely appropriate when you consider the origins of the festival. Now, it is true it has morphed into a national cultural extravaganza and it has other things that are important. Other things that in terms of development of culture, etc., that are quite important. But but it is a big deal. I mentioned earlier about the diaspora traffic, and they do look forward to crop over, and it is good to have that movement coming in to Barbados, and regional travel as well, which is important. And they are very much attracted to the crop over festival, other festivals as well. But I would hope that the government, and specifically the BTMI, because they have some good resources there, would take a critical and clinical look at what was just pointed out by Melissa, and change it. Crop over has evolved now. I mean, the NCF sponsored events are not driving the festival right now. It is, you have these promoters from Barbados and from elsewhere that are having these very high priced events and so on, and selling out. And that seems to be driving the festival. We got to look at that and see how we can use that to get more movement. I'm not knocking that because I think it's important. I wish I could see more Bajan promoters though. I mean, but the point is we have to, we got to continue to push that element to see that the festival is not allowed to, you know, die a natural death, or be so altered it's beyond recognition, and people start to lose interest. Um, you know, a good little shake up, maybe find out what people are interested in, and we go from there. And then BTMI also may have to change its approach. I mean, I notice now that they're moving away from journalists and bringing in these social media influencers, and there's the measurement of
You
what
mean like Wade
these
Maya?
influence. What's that?
You mean like Wade Maya, the African
Well,
influencer?
I mean, there's some. I mean, let's be blunt. Some fairly dubious characters. I mean, and they come in here on the government's dime, and
Yeah.
what is what are the tools of measurement for the impact that they're having? I mean, I hear about these hundreds of millions of followers that they have, and if so, and even, you know, even if you get 1% or 2% of their followers, we should have people falling off of Barbados. But what are they doing? I know, I understand it's the way of the new world and so on, but I don't think that a government or a government agency should toss all its eggs in that one basket, and certainly not without tools of measuring. I am told that you can have like promotional codes, you can do things like tagging, so you can see to what extent you're getting traffic coming through these influencers, and that you're not just paying for people to come here to have a good time and to take a few selfies and to get back on a plane and go back where they came from. We just have to be clear on that. And I think that that strategy and getting the right social media strategy perhaps could help get those numbers back up, that Melissa highlighted. I I think that the other issue you raise, which goes, and it does affect tourism. We do have a reputation for being a very expensive destination, and it is a well-earned reputation. Barbados is expensive. Okay, it's expensive to live here. Okay, it's expensive to do business here. It's expensive to get educated here. It's expensive to invest here. And the cost, the drivers of cost, and the impact it's having on, yes, tourism, but indeed on the ability to have a high quality of life, is something that needs to be looked at seriously. I was on one of these similar shows, and I made the point. We have a prime minister who delights in, you know, whipping up so-called influence on the international stage. I mean, as we speak, I think she's in New York in the precincts of the United Nations General Assembly, just going to different functions and talking about the existential threat of climate change and so on. But I don't have a problem with getting involved in the COP and so on and pushing for you know reducing the global temperature by an average of 1.5 degrees Celsius or whatever. But get your Minister of Foreign Affairs to do that. I think the priority needs to be some of these things that we are discussing, particularly cost. Barbados is becoming almost impossible for as a place for ordinary people to live, and even people who you might think should be able to afford it here. It's difficult, and it extends, as you say, to visitors, people who are coming here, people who may want to spend, but they just can't afford what it costs to be here. And worrying too, investors complain as well too. I mean, so these drivers need to be looked at, and we need to figure it out. Now I know the taxes are needed to ensure that we can have a social safety net. We can make sure the place is safe and secure, and the law and order. We need to, and of course, healthcare, the education system. I get it. We need taxes, and that end of things. All is part of the reason why the cost of living is so high. But I think we have to break it down. And unfortunately, a large part of the reason why we have such high costs, and apparently will have even higher costs, is debt service. We're borrowing a lot of money. I mean, Kemar has done a lot of amazing work in that regard in terms of explaining it to people. But that in itself will rob you of the resources that need to go into some of those other traditional governmental activities. And I think that more focus needs, more energy needs to be given to that aspect of things. It is affecting our tourists, it's affecting our citizens, it's affecting our young people. Young, talented Barbadians are leaving to make their life elsewhere because it's just impossible to live here, and you can't naturally chart a future here unless you see a lot of hardship involved, and that is the priority. And I'm not knocking. I'm not a climate change skeptic, but I'm just saying you have to accord priority where it needs to be accorded, and that situation has gone. It's gone past urgent, and the government is not doing nearly enough on that subject. I was very impressed with some recent work that your guy Ryan Walters did, Kemar, in terms of looking at the whole cost of living issue and highlighting that there are things that a government can do to make life a little more affordable, and that has to happen.
Well, thank you very much. At least we ended with a very funny comment that by the time she gets back, there will be consultants in tint removal. But not to take away from your very important point, so Richard, that this
Yeah,
the cost of living is definitely out of whack. Um, as a destination for tourists, Barbados is expensive. I actually worked at Sandy Lane in Barbados before. Um, and that is where I would have met and learned a lot about the Irish heritage of Barbados as well.
yeah.
And um, I actually saw those more affluent tourists wanting to catch these ZRs and the bus, right? And as opposed to paying $10 and $12 for one bike spare, they rather go to a shop or something and get, you know, a case or four for 10, Richard. You know,
You can't
so
blame them. It was their money. They work hard for it.
yeah, so the dynamics of tourism are changing. And
So
given the
yeah,
fact that we are in a global recession, I have been in a global recession for a while, most of the source markets that Barbados tend to get tourists from which are the US, UK, and Canada in its majority, and it should say the Caribbean to some extent. Um, you are getting tourists that their financial wherewithal is not like it was before, and even them are cutting and contriving, right? So even though you have visitor arrivals, you don't get the spend, which could, equate to the benefit. When you really benefit of bringing tourists here, no, it's not as lucrative financially as it used to be. So the planners, the foreign ministry and the tourism ministry and the investment ministry and the prime ministry need to rethink the way they look at tourists, tourist arrivals, the source markets. But I want to give Nigel a chance now, and then I want to, because you soon, you said you're going to leave us at 8:30, so you want to get in this session as quickly as possible. But I wanted to ask you about new source markets and potential for new tourists and tourism from different source markets coming in. So over to Nigel.
Sorry, Nigel. This was a. I may
All
have
good.
one more question for Richard as well
Yeah,
after Nigel.
yeah.
If
Well,
possible.
yeah, no problem.
No problem.
Okay, not jumping the gun, but you're referencing new source markets. So in my experiences and networking, where I am in the States, the millennial group, which now would be ages 28 to 43, they're experiencing a boom of what we call new money, whether it be in tech, however it is that they're coming about, they have money to spend. Um, you also hear about the other Caribbean islands, whether it be St. Vincent, St. Lucia, their carnivals now reaching a height. What do you think we are not doing here in Barbados to market to those groups that want to come to have the sun, the sun, the sea, and the vibes? Because let's be honest, that is what that group in this day and age right now are looking for, vibes. So how do you think we can market better to that group so they can come and enjoy the vibes, the unique vibes that Barbados provides?
Well, I think you have to have the appropriate product as well. I mean, yeah, okay, we got the gap, we got crop over, we got food and rum, which in my view has a tremendous ceiling. That could actually, I mean, I know it's not the most convenient time of year, but October, but that could really become something very special for Barbados in terms of moving beyond the culinary realm to the cultural realm, etc. But you gotta have things that people want to do, events, etc. And you know this, and I'm sure Barbados Barbados is not seen as a cool destination. Okay, that's where that's where my grandparents used to go, or my parents honeymooned there 30, 40 years ago. It's not we got work to do that. And in that regard, okay, fine. The social media stuff is important. In fact, the first social media manager that BTMI hired was hired when I was there as minister, because we recognized that the demographic, we have a problem with that demographic and appealing to them. There are other destinations in the Caribbean and beyond that are seen as cool places to go, etc. And we gotta focus on it. And I'm gonna sound like a broken record. The Barbados Product Authority, Tourism Product Authority, that was not seen as a priority for this government. This is the kind of things that are these are the kinds of things that agency would be positioned to focus on. And how do we get at that demographic? You got to do some market research too. I mean, you got to spend some money. I mean, whether you go to somebody like Gallup or one of those other organizations, but you got to get some empirical information on what these people are looking for. And then you can, tailor your product to suit. You might find you don't have to do a lot. I mean, a beach is a beach, but what can you do with a beach that would more impress the younger demographic, as opposed to clearly somebody who is about to retire. They want some place to put up their foot, and and somebody to bring a pina colada for them, and that's that. But the younger demographic want a little more action, and I think that we can do it. We have a lot of organizations here. We have good promoters here. We can do events. And yes, the island might be small, but we have the Gap. We have Second Street, Whole Town. We have lots of, um, you know, sports clubs, etc., community groups. We can find things to engage, because what young people are interested in when they go on a destination, when you hear them talk about the cool places, there are constant things to do, and that's what they want. Um, but I will be the first to tell you that we have some work to do in that regard. I mean, you need new attractions. We don't have any new attractions. We haven't had a new attraction here now in how long? I mean, I haven't heard anything from this government on what it plans to do in that regard.
That,
I mean, of course, they'll say, well, they gave Harrison's Cave to Chaka, who put a zip line and a few little things here and there, but it's the same cave. I I'm saying, we need new attractions, not only
right.
for the long stay visitors, but for the cruisers as well.
Understood. One final topic too. So, how much, as this is alternate views, how much do you think we are actually missing out on not taking part in the, whether it be medicinal marijuana or recreational marijuana industry, seeing where the world is trending towards? How much do you think we are missing out, if any?
I, I, I'm not sure I could answer that unless, so I would have to be advised on it. Now, I will tell you, I remember vividly, I was at a CTO meeting when Jamaica decided to legalize marijuana. They didn't do like us. We got this 1 foot in, 1 foot out thing where it's legal for medicinal, and the Rastafarians, if it's for religious use, but for recreational use, it's illegal. But if you have an amount less than 4 ounces, I think it is. Oh, it's not. You're not going to be prosecuted. It's kind of a hodgepodge. Make the thing legal and done with that. If this 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and I have no brief for marijuana per se. I'm just simply saying this hodgepodge can't work. Either you legalize it or you don't. I was telling you about Wickham McNeil, the Minister of Tourism from Jamaica. He was at a CTO meeting, and when it was announced, he said yes, because apparently people want to come to Jamaica and want to experience the sweet sensimania, and he was happy that that was the case, and of course he represented a constituency in Westmoreland, so he had marijuana farmers that vote for him. He was a Westmoreland man, so you know, from that point of view, I could see the whole marijuana thing in the tourism context. And but but I don't know how viable marijuana farms in Barbados would be given the lack of acreage. If there are specialist varieties and we can do in a greenhouse or something, maybe. But again, I'm very well. I'm prepared to be convinced. Again, I have no brief at all for marijuana, but I will say this much: I have always struggled to understand how a plant could be illegal. I don't know how God created a plant. Well, I like cigars. Cigars are made from a plant. It's called tobacco. Okay, so as a cigar smoker, if I say all marijuana is illegal, so let's say I'm running the show and I say, okay, grow more tobacco because I like tobacco. All marijuana is illegal. What's going to happen when the marijuana man gets in and decides he's running the show and decides he don't like tobacco? What's he going to do? Say, well, okay, all marijuana is illegal and all tobacco is illegal. No, they're both made by the same person. As far as I know, God made the plants, and that just doesn't make any sense to me. I just think we need to be sensible. And I know I have no brief at all for marijuana on the personal level. I'm just practical. Um, a plant cannot be illegal. If the plant is used to make an explosive or something, well, fine, the explosive would be illegal, but a plant cannot be illegal. When I was in Ecuador, I think it was, I remember seeing these obese women, indigenous women, sitting down with a sack in front of them, almost like a week of hawkers here, and they had these sacks with these cocoa leaves that you could buy, and they chew them on the streets as a way of relaxing, etc. Perfectly cocoa, perfectly legal. Now, if you take that same leaf and go and make cocaine, well, that's another thing. That's a processed thing. But the plant itself is not illegal. It is what you do to it. And I really don't. Again, I see the inconsistency of you see, do like Jamaica and done with that if you can do it, or but this hodgepodge, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, with marijuana in Barbados don't make no sense to me. I don't know. I don't know about you, but I never meet a half pregnant woman yet. Either you are or decide if we are going to legalize it or not, and done with that.
Agreed.
You know, but that's just
Agreed.
my
I think
views.
Jamaica is a great example for what their economy looks like, and I also look at somewhere like Amsterdam, where from the time I mention Amsterdam, that's where your mind goes to, and that is not in anyhow
No, are
related
you
to
sure?
any
Are you
crime.
sure? But there's two. There's two, Nigel. Not to disrupt you, but you said
But go ahead, go
from
ahead.
time you say Amsterdam, right? But don't judge me here. Don't judge me here, because I've never been to
I know,
Amsterdam.
I
But
know you guys.
there's marijuana and there's also the Red Lake District.
Well,
Absolutely.
the two are interpol. I have been, and you have no choice because the coffee shops and the show windows are all intermixed. So
Yeah,
it's a
yeah.
very interesting city, though. I must say, and the thing I like the least actually is the coffee shops. The scent from the coffee shops. As I said, I have no brief for Barry, but again, at least they're open and honest about it, and it works for them. It works. Trust me. If you see young people all over the place, it really works. And it is a very beautiful city too. The canals and everything, and it's really nice and quite interesting. That huge cathedral in the middle of the city, and then all the show windows around it. I was it's kind of baffling, but it works for them.
Nigel, like I interrupted you just now, so finish your
No, no, no.
statement.
That was it. I was just using that as an example, and as you said,
Example.
additionally, the relic districts, how that is structured and you know, put in such a way where it can be measured and managed, whereas otherwise it wouldn't be. But just as an example.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for wrapping up. Richard, the last topic, cause we are up your time, your time limit, unless you really want to
Mhm.
roll it up with us tonight. Um, Potential for
I,
new.
I learned a
We,
few. Yes.
yeah, we started about Amsterdam, but we want to look at access the new markets for Barbados, for tourists coming into Barbados. But we also want to look at accessibility in terms of new flights. So I remember when you were a minister, you brought a lot of South American business to Barbados. And I also think you brought more US business to Barbados in terms of airlift.
Mhm.
What is your vision for access to new markets in terms of new tourists and new airlift coming into the country?
Well, I mean, you need to shore up your existing markets, and I think that we need to We need to do some more work in that regard. I'm very concerned with the UK situation and the loss of seats, etc., with our legacy players. That is Virgin and BA, British Airways. Um, but so you need to first of all short that up and let that be a platform for venturing into new markets. As far as the US, we've always had a lot of potential there, and we have to continue to work to develop, particularly from beyond the traditional areas where we get our visitors. Most of the Americans that come here are in that from that northeastern area, the New York tri-state area, etc. We got to get more coming from the Midwest and even out further out west, etc. And I think those are the natural starting points. Um, so, for example, UK and Europe are separated by a tunnel, a 21-mile tunnel goes through the English Channel, and yet we seem to have the numbers out of continental Europe are very poor. In fact, the seat capacity, I had did ask the question, and I understand that we are down over 10%. We have less than 20,000 seats coming out of Europe now. And you're not going to get 75 or 80%, of those seats being filled. So we have a lot less seats now in 2024 than we had even just out of Germany 10 years ago. We're going in the wrong direction. I think that a natural place for us to push would be continental Europe, because we have been there before, and it is across, as I said, 21 miles away from our strongest market. We need to push it. Europeans also spend longer time because they get so much vacation, 4 and 6 and 8 weeks a year, and therefore it would be good to do that. The Latin America situation also is something that we explored, and we had some success with the Gulf flight, which gave way to the Avianca flight, which then in turn gave way to Copa. And Copa is extending its frequencies, etc. And that's wonderful, because the Tocumen International Airport in Panama is a strong hub. You can get a lot of good business out of Latin America, and we have to continue to push that. I think that basically anything that makes sense in terms of a flight or a tourism venture to get more business should be pursued. You have tourism services is leading the way. You should offer them to the world, and it should not only be preserved for the traditional source markets. So I'm all for going to new markets, but I think the first port of call in that regard should be the ones that are adjacent to or natural natural extensions almost to the existing source markets. Canada proved to be very good to us during that 2008 to 2010 crisis. We have to continue to push Canada, get more flights, get more Canadians coming here, particularly the ones from out west. It's hard to get a direct flight from out there because it's long haul. Canada is a massive country, but we got to see what we can do to get more Canadian business. So sometimes when you say a new source market, Kemar, it may not be a new country. It could be a new gateway within one of your existing countries. One of your existing, for example, we were trying to negotiate a Scotland flight out of the UK. Now, Scotland is a different country, but it's all part of the United Kingdom. So I think that is the way to go about it, and not just drop pie in the sky things. I hear about this direct flight from Africa. I think you need to look at that. Airlines are very expensive things to run, and if we can collectively, now I know for obvious reasons, there's a huge sentimental connection with the African continent. I'm not naive to that, but I'm just saying the economic reality is, and if you think the government their money on Cayman Islands or Bahamas there, you have a direct flight without thinking it out from across the Atlantic, and you will then see the kind of money we will have to spend. So think it out, and let's see how we can make it work with obviously traffic going in both directions. A natural thing would be to find an appropriate hub, and that could feed in. People from across the continent could feed in and come here, and then feed out to the region. And again, people from the region can come here, and it goes in the other direction as well too. And that would make the flight viable, because there's no point starting something because it sounds sweet, and then you know you're out of pocket a few months later and you gotta shut it down, like Cayman Airways, I mean, and Bahamas Air, etc. You don't want to just keep making the same mistakes over and over again. So we need to explore the markets, but we have to be sensible about it, and it has to be within the context of a strategic vision, and not just flying by the seat of your pants. Let's go here and have a flight. Let's go there and have a flight type of thing. So that's how I see it.
Very interesting. Sheepdog was making a point earlier um, about following up on the European link, which is very much in agreement with what you said, Richard.
Yeah.
And he said that many many Europeans are leaving because there's a mass immigration. Now, while I was in Ireland, I saw so many Africans, I could not believe it. I mean, Africans from I know I spoke to a lot of them. I got some contacts as well. People from Uganda, people from Ethiopia, Sudan. There were so many, right? And I noticed that even at Heathrow there were quite a bit there as well. Um, so the issue of immigration into Europe um seems to be creating another problem, and that having more people to immigrate from Europe into other lands, and the Caribbean being a very familiar destination for the Europeans. Based on what Sheepdog is saying, if we create a safe country, if we create a, the place to be, that we could have mass immigration coming from Europe, um, tourists, even people to live. But he also suggests we should putting in something, a alien land holding act, um, which would kind of slow down the sale of local property to non-nationals, right? Some people will call that anti-investment. Some people will call it being a nationalist. Um, I don't necessarily have a public opinion on it per se about alien land hold act, but I believe lands in Barbados need to be preserved. Some strategic points need to be preserved. Um, I don't believe a strategic point that the Barbados Defense Force should be sold on an investment. I think that is a ludicrous idea. For a national emblem like that to be sold for, I don't believe it could be sold for that much money, right? Um, so I agree to land restriction, the sale of specific lands at specific points. But I believe if a person wants to immigrate into Barbados and live a life like a Barbadian would, they should be allowed some level or type of ownership here to boost confidence, or whatever. But that's just my thought on it. I want to pass
Leasehold,
on to.
leasehold is a form of real property too. So you can they're formerly that have worked in other parts of the world, and
Sorry,
maybe we need
stuck
to
a
look at
bit,
that.
or
Was that I got stuck? Yeah, sorry, Kimar. I was just making the point that alternatives to freehold can be explored, and probably should be because we are small. I think that we can just sell it all to everyone. But that's
yeah,
all I would say on that.
yes, yes, agree.
Ramon had wanted to ask me something, I believe. Didn't want to.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. Well, one of the points, we
You
had
were
the
saying
gap.
something, Ramon?
Yeah, you can hear me?
I can hear you clearly. Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. Right, we had the gap, but no, my gap is more active than St. Lawrence gap after a particular time, right? My gap. And that is very unfortunate. But the question I really want to ask, do you think that we have become too much of a concrete jungle? Development is very important, but in terms of people coming here and being attracted here because of the island vibe, even the infrastructure, again, you don't want to go back to living in chattel houses, but have that intricate balance between development and nostalgia, which is the island vibe. What are your thoughts on that?
I think we can strike a balance. Um, and we probably have allowed a few things to get away, and we need to make sure we don't let everything get away. I, I have some very strong views on the East Coast, for example, and how we should go about developing out there in terms of tourism development out there. I think I very much agree. It should be low impact type, you know, eco sensitive and preserving, you know, that kind of lush landscape that we have. I mean, and I do think that we have to strike a balance. I mean, the West Coast is gone. You can't even see the sea now you until you get where almost in Spikes Town. Um, you know, yeah. So yes, I think that the balance is important, and it is so interesting that the United Nations World Tourism Organization constantly advises destinations to be um, when they speak about sustainable tourism. It also needs to be sensitive to the cultural realities and try to let people immerse themselves into that aspect of it and not just, you know, as you say, lick down, break down everything and build a concrete hotel with a swimming pool in the front or the back, like everybody else. And try to do things to, you know, have development that is sensitive to the cultural realities. And in our case, with a marine ecosystem that is so precious, so vulnerable, and with limited land space, um, we have to be even more careful about that. This tourism thing can go wrong very quickly. You will hear about Bali, one of the most sought after tourism destinations in the world, but there's a there's a negative side to Bali. You can research it on the internet and see that they've their environment has really suffered a lot because of tourism development, and there's that dichotomy that we have to make sure that we get it right. I mean, some people have got it right, but we can't lose sight of that balance that you pointed out for sure.
Any further comment, Ramon?
Well, thank you, Mister or Miss Waldron, for your very kind words. But um,
That's a mister. That's a mister.
that's Mister Dewdrop. I wasn't sure
Nice.
if Dewdrop
Yeah,
is a man or a woman, so it's a man. You know him,
yeah, that's a mister. Yeah, very
Mister.
well.
Oh, you
Um,
know him well. Okay, good.
yeah. I'm sure you've met him a couple of times as well too, but just is not his real name, so you might not follow
Well,
the name.
I kind of work it out that people are not putting up their real names. The guy with the sheepdog, I think, from Ireland, for example.
Yeah.
Caroline Cadogan. That looks like a real name. Leasing land and barbs to keep you okay. A sheepdog. That's uh,
Yes. So if we gonna pass on to Melissa, um, any word, Melissa?
You muted, Melissa. Oh,
Yeah, since we were on the topic of culture, I know usually when I travel to New York, I would normally pop in and catch a Broadway show or two. Um, do you think that we in Barbados embrace our creative art culture enough?
No, 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 we don't. And I think that that is the point, that we need to integrate that aspect of things because the tourists want it, especially the younger, more progressive ones. And I think it could help enhance the experience. The only thing you want to do in a hotel is sleep. If you think about it, you want things to do, and cultural things are very important. And I gotta hand it to you. You say you go to two Broadway shows in New York. When I'm in New York, I lucky if I can go to one. The tickets are so expensive, and that's for the bleachers all in the back. So, but listen, that's good. That you
Yeah, yeah.
that's good.
I look for the cheap tickets. Yeah,
Well, you gotta go the off Broadway shows, which are quite good too, and you get a little
yeah.
cheaper there. But
Yeah, I usually take in NBA and NFL as well. So I try to have the full tourist
okay,
experience. Yeah.
that's good. Good stuff. Okay, well, well, I'm gonna let you all wrap up.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me, and also thank the alternate viewers who express, were very supportive, and I enjoyed this discussion very much. Um, I will, I will look forward to a return invitation at some stage.
Yes. Well, thank you very much, Richard. We enjoyed having you on the program. You are invited on Alternate Views. Um, I'm sure tourism is not your only area of interest. You said you're an engineer, and I'm sure you work on other pet projects that you'll be very keen on sharing at future intervals. We know that you're a very avid politician as well. So at some point, we want to hear your experience as being a member of parliament for St. Michael South Central. Um, I think it was about how many terms? Um,
I
you
had
were there
three
for
terms,
since
three terms,
yes,
15 years.
yes, 15 years, and that's a
15
very
years.
long time to keep a parliamentary seat. So at some point we're going to have a political show. We don't usually do political shows on alternate views, but we want to hear the experience of those senior persons who went before us, and it could be a very eye-opening opportunity and an inspiration for those persons who may be thinking about politics, may have an interest in politics. I'm sure Richard's journey will give you some level of motivation to get in. And if you dare try to follow in his footsteps, I'm not sure there's shoes that are big enough for you to fit.
No, I'm sure you can all blaze your own trails,
Yes.
bypass me. I have no problem with that. I enjoy this, and I like the ideas, and this is how you learn. Um, so once again, thank you very, very much. Enjoy.
Yeah.
Have a
Yeah, before you
pleasant
go,
day.
before you go, I
Mhm.
just wanted to ask any of the other panelists if they have any final comments to make before you exit.
Not really comment.
Anybody?
I just want to thank Richard for coming on the show and sharing a lot of his views. Um, it was very educational, and we heard a little bit of his experience, and we learned a lot, man. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yes. All
Um,
right.
yes, thank you very
Okay.
much,
Take
Sheepdog.
care.
All the way from Ireland. Seems to be a very avid fan of yours, Richard. He says a good listen and interesting to say the least. So thank you very much, Mr. Richard
Thank you.
Seeley.
Okay. Great. Okay.
Whoa. Well, thank you very much to Richard. We had a very good discussion with Richard. You guys will say that, Elise?
Yeah, for sure.
Very in depth, very in depth, uh, very alternate. You know, I appreciate Mr. Seeley coming on and sharing his alternate views.
Yeah. Well, the name is literally catching on. The name is literally, uh, as you guys say, bringing the vibes. That we can have those guys senior, serving at the highest levels of Barbados, well traveled, well read, being able to come on alternative views and to share his perspectives. We learned a lot about tourism and the happenings of tourism. I like the questions that Melissa posed in terms of the numbers, um, the $10,000, 10,000 number drop in terms of arrivals and so. Um, Nigeria, I like how you brought it from from your perspectives of course, from being in the diaspora, also having like open travel from where you are in US. And Ramon, as usual, your questions are very interesting. Um, you asked about, I think it was you asked about crop over as well. I think,
No, that was
No,
or
that
it
that,
wasn't
that
you.
was Melissa. I asked about
Oh,
the
sorry.
concrete jungle.
Right, you asked about the concrete jungle, but you asked about another area that I thought was very interesting as well.
Not asked. Not asked. I
So
was. I was.
we are up at almost 9 o'clock. So this last half hour is dedicated to. Sorry.
Yeah. Hello.
Yes, you
Yes,
say
you can hear
something.
me. No, I was saying that I spoke about
Yeah.
the World Cup. How there was
Oh,
a
yes.
buzz. Yes, there was a buzz. Should be, and it wasn't situation. There wasn't much integration with the locals. I didn't feel that. I didn't feel that buzz for sure. Hello. Stick.
Kemar looks like he's frozen right
Yeah,
now.
Kemar sees frozen.
But
Appreciate the way you
Ramon,
guys
Yeah.
yes, I appreciate the way you guys intertwine World Cup into the conversation. That was very well done. Um no, World Cup obviously is a different type of tourism. I would call that the sports tourism, right? Sports tourism. But for somebody like me, I'm not a big sports. I can't really play. Um, I have to leave the cricket playing to persons like Domry Armstrong, who's a very good cricketer. Um, but Melissa, you were saying something before.
I was about.
Oh, I saw you on mute, so that's why I thought you.
Oh no, I just unmuted. That's alright.
Yeah. Any you guys want to make a quick comment, Nigel?
yeah. So as today's title is tourism statistics, is the Barbados economy standing on one leg? The question I will pose is that the case? Is that a yes or is that a no?
Mm. Well, could you identify another money earner for Barbados that has the earning potential that tourism has right now in our current structure?
It saddens me to tell you no, I cannot.
Like, Ramon, can you?
No, I can't.
Melissa?
No.
Right. So we have a problem. We have a problem, and that problem, persons like us cannot pass that problem on to the adults now because we are the ones that people are looking to conceptualize ideas, uh, develop new industries, develop new concepts and theories that could help grow Barbados out of. the current situation. Now, I will put this question to the entire panel. Ramon, we have somebody here saying that you are a farmer on the 15, a farmer on the 15 Barbadian leg spinner. He knows cricket tall. No, I did not know Ramon was a cricketer. Ramon,
You knew that Melissa was a cricketer as well?
I know about Don Marie, but you guys are hiding secrets from me on here.
Yes, I
I
was.
think I think her
Domri and
level of
I
cricket
played together.
her level of cricket was a little higher than mine as well too. I think mine is on the 15, but she was a little more recent. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. There we go. Yeah. She a
Yes,
big
well,
one. She a big
yeah,
one.
well, nevertheless, we have international stars on the live, Nigel. Um, we may not have made it as far as to play for the national level of Barbados, but nevertheless, we waved our flag how we were supposed to. Um, we gave a more intellectual wave, but nevertheless, we love our country. So you were saying something, Nigel. Boy.
No, you were posing a question to the panelists.
Yes, you were. I think you were going down the lines of offering alternate sectors,
Oh,
income generation.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. Oh, yes. I was saying no. Um, there was conversation about in Barbados about an alternate sector, and that alternate sector was the renewable energy sector, right? So solar energy, wind energy, geothermal energy, and saving Barbados millions by moving a lot of our moving our electricity services to either these three means of ways. But so far, the transition over to renewable energy has been rather slow. Um, I don't know how much you guys know about the Barbados Light and Power, but the Barbados Light and Power owns the electricity grid in Barbados and not the government. Right? So, because of Light and Power's unwillingness to cooperate, right, there has been a lot of stalling as it relates to feeding the solar energy and the wind energy and the geothermal energy into the grid, the electric grid. So again, I have not heard much coming out or much updates about the transition, but renewable energy has been identified as a sector that can help to earn us and to save us the foreign exchange. Now, I have not thought about it so deep that I could give you my opinion off my head about the transition to renewable energy, but there are some instances where solar power could be integrated into the Barbados economy, right? There are some instances where uh, the desalination process, which is using the seawater and the geothermal process using the water and seawater to generate energy, right? So I wanted to know what you guys think about renewable energy as a alternate sector.
It sounds nice, and I'm pretty sure can be metrics to show how the implementation and over time how that saves. But I do know that the infrastructure to get that ball rolling, that is a huge investment. And I am not certain if the economy is in a circumstance to make that huge investment up front. We know that it will benefit, but the infrastructure in order to put that in place is very costly.
My only thing about renewable and so forth, um, in terms of the equipment used to I believe produce the equipment, they don't emit the same type of I believe, for lack of a better word, the illegal emissions to actually make the equipment used to produce this renewables fuel? That's the question.
But Nigel, you're absolutely correct. The initial investment needed for this sector is enormous. I don't think that we actually have a final figure. Um, I don't think that we can fully afford it at the moment. Well, we say at the moment, but I don't know if we can afford it at all. And then you still have the issue of battery storage. How are we going to store the energy?
You are correct, Melissa. We have some applications in place right now. Um, I know the hearing or the hearing in terms of the Barbados Light and Power and the different approvals for investment, etc., is happening right now. Um, that is a discussion that we would need to have at some point in time. Um, I also looked at the fact that the Light and Power is seeking to raise the initial investment into renewable energy from the people of Barbados. Right, so they're seeking permission from the Financial Services Commission to be able to raise your light bill, to be able to raise the upfront money because the investors don't want to pay. But they want the people of Barbados to pay, which is by no means a fair policy. But I think this is where I have to agree with Sheepdog in the sense that um, governments around the world know about the power of taxes, right, and tax collection, and governments enact policies to allow private corporations to come in and fleece off the backs of the people. So if a corporation wants $50 million in investment, instead of a corporation go to a bank or go and face the market, a corporation will usually pay off some corrupt politician or some corrupt government to be able to get their hands on taxpayers' money to do investing for private reasons, while offering the locals the menial bottom end jobs and outsourcing the more lucrative jobs to the non-national market. Now, I say all of that to ask you guys a question. I don't know how much experience you have in terms of hotel operations or seeing hotels, but you guys travel, you guys have been to hotels. And how do you see the idea of having non-national expatriates, basically, right? Um, Coming in at the highest levels of management, obviously, in a lot of these hotels, right? Taking up the more lucrative, better jobs in the tourism industry. Now you see that once upon a time, many Barbadians worked in hotels, but now you have, even at the lower job like waiter, bartender, now you even have non-nationals taking up a lot of those jobs as well. So when you go to, as I tell you, these different hotels or whatever, when you look at the different jobs, how do you guys perceive work and jobs and the offerings in the tourism industry right now? And anybody could jump in.
The hotel sector, from a labor perspective, it has a stigma to it. Local workers have a lot of issues internally in terms of working hours, how they are treated. And for example, you just had Sandals and Sam Larry sending home individuals up to like 500 people because the season was is supposedly slow. So you ask persons to go to Palmarine, you ask persons to go to Bahamas and do a degree in the hotel sector. But then when they actually start to work, employment for a whole entire year is not guaranteed. And then the jobs at the higher end, as you said, are offered to individuals from other islands or other countries.
Melissa, the television is kind of overpowering your voice, so we could faintly hear you. Uh,
Sorry. Let somebody else answer the question for the moment. Sorry, that's my
yeah,
boss.
no problem. Yes.
Yeah, there's something called job security. I think that's the feeling that a lot of the workers in the tourism industry feels. That's how they feel, right? They feel at any point in time, you know, manager could say, warm time, right? And a level of security. They don't feel that way because every year the hotel closes down, right? So um, they don't feel a level. They don't feel that level of security. Obviously, you guys can
Yeah.
hear me. Okay,
Yeah, I can hear you.
okay.
Nigel, you have any parting comment?
In terms of the tourism industry, I haven't spent a lot of time uh, being a patron of local tourism in terms of hotels industries. But my mother, she does work. Well, recently retired like a week ago, but I do know the the workers there are stretched thin across the board. She was a laundry attendant, and I know she would often complain about the amount that they have to deal with, and the limited amount of staff, and the pressure that is on them to get so much work done in such a little time. So I think that is also an indicator of I can't call it mismanagement. I can't call it lack of people actually being in the hotels, but there is a around the board call to something is gone awry. Something has gone awry, and it needs to be solved.
Hmm. Yeah.
And the
All
other
right.
question is it easier or is it less expensive to hire, obviously, people from other countries? That's the
Yeah.
question.
Yeah. It's called economies of scale.
Yeah.
The average Guyanese, if you tell him that he's coming to Barbados, I can't recall the exchange rate, but let's just say uh $50 Barbados is 500 Guyanese, and you tell a Guyanese man that he's coming to work for Barbados for $500 a day. It sounds like a lot, but if you convert that, that's only 50 Barbados dollars a day, right? Much like the Barbadian salary, we like to brag that we work for $500 a week, but realistically, that's only 250 US uh, a week, right? And in other jurisdictions, people work for triple and quadruple that amount in the same week. So it just levels to the perspective. Uh, People from the OECS countries, like St. Lucia, and those that spend the EC dollar, they have much weaker currencies. So if you come to Barbados, and you work, like we're seeing this happening now with a lot of Jamaicans coming to Barbados to work, to save money, to send money back to Jamaica because the exchange rate is astronomical, and you would therefore get more for you. But if you just come here, work and save. But I sometimes work try to find out how people still save in Barbados because of the outlandish cost of living, but people still do it nevertheless. um, I want to take in some comments quickly from the live. We're soon in our last 13 minutes. So we've been going, but we've hardly been acknowledging. So Ramon, I don't know if you wanna acknowledge and read some of the comments as they come up. Well, let us scroll back up. And we try to scroll back up to the top. We might not get all in, but nevertheless, we're gonna try to shout out some persons on the live. We shout out Mr. Angel earlier. We're on the Paris. We shout out Tim War. We shout out Square 4. We shout out Peter King. Shout out Sheepdog with the calendar. Marcia Lemuel too. And we shout out Aisha Harding. And then see my guy Sir Alfred Benjamin, all the way from Brooklyn, New York. And we had a Patrick. Now, Melissa here is your favorite guy, Oswald, on the live.
Hi, Oswald.
So good night to Oswald. So over to you, Ramon.
Tyrone Nurse. Good evening, Kemar. Good evening, panel. Big up to you, Tyrone. Joyanne Faith. Good night, everyone. Good night, Joyanne. Bless up. Lorenzen Pierre. Oh, there. I'm sorry to mash it in here, but good night. Keep up the good work. Good night. Fabian Yard. Good night to all. Big up, Fabian. John Seeley. Yeah, man. It's Sam Lars Sam Lars still associated with Wyndham. I think that is Wyndham. I believe that's Wyndham. Yeah. Romeo Hinkson. Good night, Kemar. Square 4. Good night to the viewers from Ireland. Big up, Ireland. Charles Critchlow speaking from the UK. Successive governments have and continue to overlook the deep well of opportunity in the diaspora. All right. Big up, Charles. Calvin McKenzie. John, Sam Lawrence is an all-inclusive hotel. Locals need 150 US to spend a day there. When I got back to the US, I asked Wyndham what the deal was. Christopher Harris, big up Christopher, my guy. Ramon, we must have some, I believe that ballots here. Yes, there was a hive of activity on Rihanna Drive. I saw the tuck band, etc. The match between the USA and West Indies was packed to the fullest. I was there. It was a vibe. Christopher, that is still near Kensington. It is not anywhere near Old Town or the South Coast. Yeah. So that's three Barbados in three parts still. Thanks, Christopher. Dear world, blessed good night, alternate viewers, including the presenters slash panelists. Sir Dale is in the house. Big up, Dale. Alicia Franklin. Good night, all. Good night, Alicia. Carrie, Alicia. Alicia. Okay. Good night to all. Good night, Carrie. FX Trading, BB. Good night, Kemar. Co-host and guest. Good night to you. Richard Nightmares. I would like to ask the people of Barbados an honest question. Are you all better off now under the BLP than the BLP? All of these things that Mia promised you all and nothing have been done. Case closed. I believe that's case closed. Rachel Thornhill. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Rachel. Black man from the islands, Nigel touched on an interesting point, which prompted my question. Can these gifts brought in by members of the diaspora not be seen in the same light as remittances? That's a good
Yeah,
question.
yeah.
Big up,
That's what
Kemar.
we discussed last week. Yeah, we
Yeah.
discussed remittances a bit last week. You guys remember?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Mhm.
Catherine Stewart. Oh dear. Good night, Catherine. And Vernon Garns. Good night to everyone. Good night, Vernon. Big up. Pedro Jamon. Greetings. Blessed love, Pedro. Kamala Lewis. Hi. Hi. Good night to you.
Yeah,
Andrea Moore. It is the people that are changing things. The country will always be Barbados. Mervyn Morris. Yes. Good evening, Mervyn.
yeah. I think that's most of the comments. Also,
Hold Simone Daniel 17. Good night, Kimar, Richard, and panel. Good night, folks. Good night to you as well.
yeah, I think that's most of everyone. We had Madingo Flex, and then we had someone called Imanen.
Right.
Uh, we had Stephen Brown. Welcome on to the show, Mr. Brown. We had Patsy B, Caroline Cadogan, uh, on the ungodly shall suffer. Uh, then you had Jude Waldron. Uh, yeah, and that's mainly most of the names that I've seen. Gelbiz, connect to Gelbiz, connect to Hasbro. Thank you for tuning in. Galvez say thank you to your entire panel tonight, Kimar. Great show. Have a good night, everyone. Sheepdog was saying very interesting to hear what's going on over there. You have the ticket, lads. Believe me. Thank you very much. To Drop Waldron say tonight's show lived up to expectations. Kudos to you, Kimar. Yes, yes, yes. Uh, yeah, Peter Earl. Good night to Peter Earl and Queen McQueenis. Eileen Tell. Clayty Vaughn, thank you, Clayty, and original Stapo. I suppose that's the original Gestapo. uh, but these are some rather interesting names. So we have 5 minutes left, guys. So we're gonna circle the wagons for the very last time, and hopefully we're gonna end on time tonight and try to be quite disciplined. We started early. We got through majority of the show very well. So let me tell you, thank you as usual. You're all very excellent. It was good to have Joe back again, and it was very good to have Richard as a former minister of tourism coming on with us, the younger generation, to share his wisdom, and that we can ask him questions and that he could ask us questions and to also give his foresight, and for us as young people to be leading the conversation, right? Not just to be takers of opinions, but to be thought drivers in the process, and also to be lifelong learners, right? I don't want us to forget that we are lifelong learners. I don't want us to keep that philosophy. So it is 9:25. Let us try to wind up by 9:30 if possible. So let us circle the wagons. Melissa, we're gonna let you go first, as they say, ladies first. This time.
No problem. Tonight was very educational, informative. I learned a lot from Richard and from the experiences that he shared. Um, for me personally, I would like to see sports tourism embrace more in Barbados. Um, in terms of the culture, I don't think that we have a culture that is fully defined. I think if you go around and you ask young people what our culture is, I don't think that you would get the same answer from majority of persons. Um, so I think one of the major things that we need to do as a country, as a people, is to have a culture that is defined and known by everyone, so that we can then share that culture with foreigners. If we don't know who we are and what we are about, how can we have a product to share with others? So I think that we need to work on our culture and define it and look for other alternatives to have an income for our country. That's my suggestions, contributions.
Yes. So thank you very much, Melissa. Very good to have you on Alternate Views yet again, becoming our new resident host. We look forward to hearing from you more. Also, congratulations on your latest achievement. Um, that is being appointed the spokesperson on elder affairs.
Well, supposed to be single mothers. As you can see,
Yes,
my daughter was there today, coming in on the show every now and then. So yeah, single mothers.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So
Thank you very much.
congratulations. Yes, so congratulations on being appointed to be the spokesperson on you said family affairs and single mothers.
Single mothers and children.
Yes,
Yeah.
and children. So congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Um, Ramon, uh, second resident host. This is the host night, so you guys get to go first. Since you're more senior, sir, we look forward to hearing your part and comment.
Yeah, that's simple. Whilst you were preparing this topic, you seem to have been peeping because tomorrow is World Tourism Day.
Oh,
Tomorrow is
really?
World Tourism Day. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. So it was a very apt topic. Um, very educational. Learned a lot tonight. I love the analysis. I love analysis and so forth. By Melissa, big kudos to you for your appointment. And always a pleasure to be on this show. The viewers, love the viewers, love the environment, love everything about the show. So, viewers, continue to come through. This is Alternate Views.
Yes. Thank you very much, Ramon. Over to you, Mr. Franklin. You have the parting comment tonight.
Okay. Thank you for having me again, Melissa. Big up yourself on your appointment. Well done. I know you will represent well. Um, Parting comments. I would like to walk into Grand Adams International Airport and some proper overtime and be handed a margarita or a shot in support of that fun and those vibes that we were looking for. I would like to see the airport experience as that is our first introduction to say welcome. I would like that to be revamped and revitalized in a way where you will find people not even wanting to leave the airport upon entry just because there's a vibe there. I would really like to see us capitalize on what we already have and not looking externally for not necessarily new ideas, but trying to reinvent the wheel. This is Barbados, the island in the sun, gem of the Caribbean Sea. There's so much that we have to offer. I just really think it takes the minds and it takes the work ethic and it takes the discipline in order to bring those things about. Which but I am sure with what we're doing here in these conversations, bridging the gap between the elders and the youth, that we can see some of those uh, very integral things happen. But again, it was great having the ex-minister on the show. I think that is very monumental. Just shows the cachet and the intellect of this space here in the alternate views. And I would say a thank you to all the alternative viewers for tuning in and offering their opinions. And it's a very valuable space that we have here. So thank you and Everybody have a great weekend.
Yes. Well, thank you very much, Nigel. Thank you very much, Ramon. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you very much, Richard, for coming on. As was said by Ramon, this is World Tourism Days. Tomorrow, I had no idea. But that's probably part of the vision, being a lifelong learner. Something probably was brewing in me that I didn't quite realize. So let however the Lord wants it to be, let it be. But you had a really good show tonight. We discussed the issue of tourism extensively. So we look forward to hearing something tomorrow, some type of response from the Minister of Tourism of what was said here tonight. Um, it's World Tourism Day, so he should say something in terms of a statement or so addressing World Tourism Day. So we will look forward to that. But I really enjoyed Richard and how Richard was able to articulate himself. I also like how Richard allow his alternate views to mesh with the alternate views of the panel tonight, the host. I have high respect and I have high praises in the capacities and the capabilities of every single host that I have on the screen here tonight to be part of the conversation, but not just being a fly in the wall on the conversation, but being a thought driver in the conversation. And respect goes out to Richard for being able to infuse himself into the panel tonight. If I didn't know, you would think that Richard was probably about 30, 35 around our age group. He certainly looks the part. But nevertheless, alternate viewers, we had a really good show tonight. So we want to thank you all for tuning in. Um, this episode tonight is sponsored by Lifelong Learning. You'll learn much more about lifelong learning from next week. But just let you know that this specific episode was sponsored by Lifelong Learning, endorsed by the Caribbean Progress Studies Institute, and we say good night to the CPSA, and we say good night to the Emergent Ventures and all of the recipient awardees of the Emergent Ventures group, especially Emergent Ventures 2024, who just came from Dublin, Ireland. I want to thank Sheepdog all the way from Ireland for tuning in. Him along with all of our other Irish guests, our UK guests, our US guests, our Caribbean guests, and our African brothers and sisters as well, as we do have persons who tune in from over in Africa, and very soon we're going to have some guests straight out of Africa from Zimbabwe, Uganda, from, name it, we have a guest uh, coming from there. So we're up at 9:35, so we're going to say official good night and wrap up. Uh,
Wait, Kemar,
so
hold
good
on
night to you.
before
Yes,
you go. Sheepdog said his name is Mark.
yes, Mark.
Yeah, that's Mark.
But I kind of like sheepdog better. Um, I don't know if you've ever seen a sheepdog before, Mark, but I don't know if you've ever seen a sheepdog before, but I like
Well,
sheepdog better.
we
Um,
calling him Sheepdog the whole night, and he actually said his name is Mark. So that is some indication that he probably doesn't want to be called Sheepdog. Probably.
yeah, but Mark, sheepdog, nevertheless, is respect. Whatever you prefer to be called, we will call you it. Um, so thank you very much for coming on all the way from Ireland. Square Four is saying that Joe Franklin, good night, big up yourself. Like what the Jamaicans say. That one is for you. Eileen tells them Melissa could let her daughter just say good night too. Yeah, so Melissa, you have a future politician coming up over there. She's saying good night. Bye bye. Good night. Good night. Yeah. All right. So with that being said, we're going to sign off now. And we are going to see you guys, if that is it, next week, Thursday, 7 p.m. promises to be another interesting show. Alternate views. Don't forget to tune into the Marcia Week show tomorrow at 7 p.m. There's a lot going on over there. I had a quick announcement to make. Don't forget to donate to the water drive to those persons who are in St. Lucie who do not have clean water or clean running water to their pipes. So don't forget to donate to the Young Democrats uh, water project. So if you're in doubt, you could take your donations of bottled water to the Jar Street Auditorium. Somebody will be there to welcome your donations. Please arrive at a proper time so that somebody could see to receiving your donations of water to help the people in St. Lucie. On Saturday as well, uh, Aisha, Aisha is having her Bojo bowls. So she's having a special. I know many of the persons who have attended the marches would have drank one of Aisha's special natural drinks. So now Aisha is offering Bojo bowls for sale. So as you know, your saltfish, it has in avocado, uh, pear, it has in sweet potato, you may get some green bananas. So it's a very luscious breadfruit bowl. So there's a special going on between breadfruit bowls and a lovely naturally made drink for $25 for both. So we want to encourage you to support Aisha's Bojo Bowls. Um, the contact number you could contact me and I will pass all orders on to her. So the telephone number is 846-9912. That is 846-9912. If you're interested in having Bojo and Bojo for those persons who may be non-nationals, as you know, just our special saltfish makes up tasting all lovely. So get your Bojo Bowls this Saturday from Aisha 846-9912 if you're interested in having uh Bojo. So with that being said, loyal patron supporters, I had a good night, but this is where we know sign off. So goodbye.